Hi. Yeah, I'm Jan, and you're Virginia, right?
Yeah, I live in Virginia. Christine Warner.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a Medicare fraud detection specialist.
A Medicare fraud
Yeah,
detector specialist.
yes.
Boy, do we need those.
We need those a lot.
Okay. Uh, we're here with Christine Warner, and she is a Medicare detector specialist of fraud. She detects fraud in Medicare, as I understand it, which is quite a valuable and important service, and we want to thank you for that because we certainly need that. I approached you to ask you about the Me Too movement and thought maybe you could explain it to us guys that don't understand it too well. Could you tell us the thesis of the Me Too movement?
Well, I think the Me Too movement is definitely a women's movement about sexual harassment. Um, and basically, it was saying Me Too, that a lot of women have been harassed in some point in their lives. I have not really been a part of that movement, honestly. I
Can you
think
explain about exactly what harassment is? Because I interviewed another lady, and actually we agreed. I mean, uh, it wasn't that she was against advances, courteous advances. She just didn't want to be touched or approached in a vulgar way.
right.
That's what you mean by harassment?
Actually, harassment is any unwelcome attention. If it's a long look, an elevator stare, if it is several invites to dinner that you declined, harassment to a woman is any unwelcome advance, whether that be spoken or physical. Um, it is a problem, but I'm starting to see that men don't feel comfortable saying anything to a woman now. So there's got to be some middle ground, I hope, for people.
Right. Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out exactly. Um, harassment. Would women be happy if no men approached them at all? In other words, they never made a pass. They never invited them and waited for the woman to go first.
I see what you're saying, and I have to agree with you. Women would be very, very upset if no one paid any attention to them at all because we do try hard to look good and we do want to have compliments. It's just when they're severely unwelcome is where the problem starts. Um,
Right. So, wouldn't a working rule be, uh, it's okay. You make your advance. I say no, and go from there instead of calling that harassment, because the men cannot guess whether the woman is interested or not. So they have to make an advancement,
sure.
and so sometimes they ask more than once. Maybe they think second or third time, as long as it's in a courteous way.
Right.
Is that okay?
Sure. I probably wouldn't have gotten married had my ex-husband not asked me 6 times. But there
Well,
is.
that's a great point because that's what
Yeah.
most men know and understand, and that accounts for their persistent behavior.
Right.
Uh, in some cultures, it's more persistent than others.
Right.
So if you've been around the world, you know that in some cultures, it doesn't matter what the woman says. She could say no 500 times. The guy hears yes.
It's true. Selective hearing works both ways. Yeah, I agree with you. And this is going to sound like we're putting down the Me Too movement, but my girlfriends and I, we're reaching our 50s, or I'm in my mid 40s, and we wanted to start a hashtag Touch Me Too movement because we are seeing now that men are so afraid to say anything to women, and we're finding it's not good when there's not a balance. So that was just a funny joke, the
Yeah.
hashtag Touch Me Too.
Well, I think, no, it's a funny joke, but it's an insight into the truth about femininity. This feminine mind, nature needs attention. That is something that is important, and a woman's not going to be happy if she receives no attention. I don't care what they say, this is part of femininity. And by the way, I don't think men are going to be happy if they have to hold their tongue and do nothing. They're going to be unhappy as well.
I agree with you. And I think it's not just a woman's need to have attention. I think it's a human need. But women do want to feel beautiful.
It's very important to the woman,
does.
and rightfully so, because men focus on beauty.
So do we.
Oh, well, that's good to know. I didn't know that part as well.
We do too.
But I think men should focus more on character as well. And but I have to admit that in my life, as a young man, I'm happily married now. But as a young man, I just beauty overwhelmed me,
Yeah.
and so I just went with the lady that looked most beautiful.
But that's actually a God-given gift and insight. It's the first sight that you see someone, I think it's a God-given thing. You're like, I pick him over him because I'm more attracted to him. That's okay. Otherwise you'd just be friends.
Right.
And you can't just date everybody, so you have to pick someone you like to look at, and that's okay.
And like to smell.
That too.
My wife points that out often.
Well, good.
Okay. Well, Virginia, this has been a charming interview, and I'm glad that we hopefully lived up to your expectation, and it wasn't going to be such a bad experience as you might have worried.
This was a great conversation. We need to have more of this, just give and take.
We appreciate you sharing your honest views, and that's all we need in life. Human beings making honest exchanges to try to understand what each of us think and why we think it.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Virginia. That was nice.